1. I was a server for almost 11 years, and spent 7 of those years at my last job on Frenchman. During that time, I saw 2 owners, 5 GMs, and countless employees come and go. I was there longer than anyone over the course of that time. I sacrificed just about every Christmas Eve, every New Year's Eve and day, every Halloween, and every Mardi Gras, which is a sacred holiday for us. I had to tell friends sorry I have to work 1,000 times and strained all my relationships. I came to work sick and unhappy hundreds of times. Once I fractured 4 vertebrae during a serious accident and was at work the next day, worked through family members' deaths, and almost never received leniency beyond, "Well, you'll find the day 'cause we're slow, but you need to get your other shifts covered." But that's how shit goes in the restaurant, huh? I never once received a promotion or a raise above my $2.45 an hour, and even though I knew I was worth more and did everything I could to convince them of it, typically they retorted with something like, "You can find a new server to replace you tomorrow." On top of making nothing an hour, the pay didn't even cover my taxes, so I always got a $0 check and owed money every tax season. And this isn't specific to my job in Frenchman. This was every restaurant I worked at. At only 29, my knees and ankles pop all the time now. I have varicose veins lining my ankles and a permanent pinch in my back from standing for hours and walking 10,000 plus steps every weekend night. I dipped in and out of alcoholism and a brief addiction to Adderall, which is par for the course, I suppose. My mental health was torn apart a few dozen times. I have pretty serious anxiety now that I absolutely attribute to that job. I considered suicide more than once during that time. I always thought I was a loser and that I couldn't do better because that's what the industry conditioned me to believe. There were some good times, sure. The money came fast and went fast. I had the pleasure of meeting lots of interesting characters. I can honestly say that my charisma is well refined now because of the industry, which in my opinion is a useful skill that I couldn't have learned anywhere else. A bit over a year ago, the restaurant closed because of lockdown. I found out a month ago that the job I worked at all that time reopened recently. They only called a few people to come back, and I was not one of the people. No, thank you for your service, no, how are you? They have just completely blew me off, along with several other employees that have 3+ years there. They currently have a "now hiring servers" sign in the window. I had no intentions of going back, but the way they rejected me has firmly cemented my opinions on that industry. Through all of my serving career, I never thought I could do better. I always loved tech. It was my dream as a child to work with video games. However, I always figured I wasn't educated enough to pursue a job in that field. About 7 months ago, I applied to a job in a video game QA, kinda as a, well, why not, expecting not to get it. To my surprise, I was hired. I'm getting decent pay now, vacation and sick time, which is amazing by the way, and benefits. I took a mental health day off a few weeks ago, was paid for it, and they did not ask any questions. They love me and my work ethic, and I expect a promotion soon. I am hundreds of times happier now than I ever was serving. I love my job and actually look forward to working instead of being filled with dread, thinking what's the shit show going to be like tonight. And beyond that, I love my life more now as well. I have a daily routine, a normal sleep schedule, and get to actually enjoy my weekends off. I promise you, you can do better. If you are reading this and feel the same way I did, please believe in yourself and move forward. You do not need to stay in the restaurant all your life. The restaurant industry is abusive, and you are worth so much more. You can find something you actually love. I did. 2. I work in a small chain family restaurant that serves a lot of home-style cooked food. Lately, there's only a hostess on weekend morning shifts. My manager desperately needs to hire multiple front-end staff, but just hasn't gotten around to it. So it gets pretty hectic, having to serve and hostess when it gets busy at night. I usually end up serving my section and hostessing for both me and the other waitress. Tonight, Friday, the busiest night of the week, My boss had just myself, 20, and the youngest server, 17. She's actually really amazing at her job, manning the restaurant. We work great together, but both being and looking very young makes rude and entitled people not want to listen to us. As soon as I start my shift at 3 p.m., I cover the whole floor. 12 tables, full capacity, as half are closed off, for an hour until the other server arrived, then the floor was split, to be clear. First hour was quite busy, but it just got busier and busier after she arrived, until we had to start up a wait list. Cue the rude dude. I noticed a new customer at the front as I was bringing out a table's food. Important to note that when he walked through the glass doors, he had passed the lady who was next on the list. As soon as I walked up to him and was in the middle of saying hello, he looked straight ahead at the one dirty table in the joint and said, "I'll take the booth, go clean it." "I'm sorry, but we are full and actually have a waiting list going. There's one person ahead of you and it should be around 10 to 15 minutes for a table."
"Just give me that table, I'm in a hurry, I have places to be."
"That table is actually for that lady behind you and our only available one, but I can add you to the list and the next available table will be yours." He points to closed tables.
"What about those empty tables? Don't want to sit me there or what?"
"Those are actually closed for social distancing."
"Isn't there tables around the corner in the back there?"
"They are full as well. Everything is occupied. Would you like to be added to the list or not?" At this point I'm getting impatient as I have about a dozen other tasks that would be more useful than this conversation.
"Show me the list."
"There's one person ahead of you."
"Show me the list."
"There is only one person ahead of you."
"Show me the list!"
"That lady is the only person ahead of you. The next table will be yours."
"Give me the list. I want to see how long the wait is myself."
I'm kind of in shock because this guy literally tries to snatch the fucking paper right out of my hands. "I am not going to show you the list. It has people's private numbers on it."
"What's your name?"
I tell him my name.
"Yeah, well, I'm Timmy Tiny Todger, and you're in trouble. I don't mean to be short, but people's time is important, and you are wasting it."
He turns to walk out. "I know it is, and so are you." I doubt he heard the last part, but I really hope he did. Pretty sure he called my head office as soon as he was at the doors, but I couldn't care less, honestly. I had just an exhausting night, and that was the cherry on top. I've been fuming hard about it since I got home, so I decided to write it down. Also, I'm not necessarily mad he was rude and left, more the fact that while I was clearly as busy as can be, he wasted multiple minutes of my important time, as he calls it. And just a thought before anyone asks, no, he could hear perfectly fine. I suppose he just wasn't getting the answer he wanted, and believed repeating it would change the answer. 3. Oh, wow. Creepy one this evening. I went to pick up a shift at a place right off the freeway. One of those big semi-buffet style places that gets a lot of tour buses and families on road trips and whatnot, so usually pretty quick turnover. I showed up to relieve the girl before me, and she let me know it had been a pretty slow day so far. Her section was mostly empty, just a couple families and the best kind of tables. People eating alone with headphones on, minding their own business. But then she remembered, just as she was leaving, that she had one customer who'd been there since the start of her shift, and was sitting in their overflow space way in the back, usually reserved for private parties and really busy services. It was just a nice elderly guy in a full three-piece suit and matching hat sitting there with a glass of water, a real contrast to the t-shirt and pajama pants crowd stuffing their faces, and I thought a kind of pleasant change of pace. At first. I asked her why he was all the way in the back there by himself, once we were out of earshot, and she said he'd specifically requested it. Whatever. As we know, people sitting alone, minding their own business, fall into the best table category, so I had no problem with this. I figured he's older, he probably wanted to get out of the house while maintaining some social distance. And she said he hadn't had any other weird requests. He'd been really polite and mostly just sat there trying to make rambling small talk and nursing his water. So I go around the tables, checking in, letting them know the previous server has left, so they should flag me down if they need something. There were only a few still eating, most had paid and were just lingering. Leslie went in back to check on the old guy and let him know we'd switched over. As I started my, "Oh hi, I just wanted to see if there's anything else you needed," or he got a panicked look on his face and asked where his server was. I was like, "Oh, that's actually what I was just saying, is she's all set. So I'm taking over for her. If I can get you anything or you need something else, just let me..."
"Oh, no, I don't want you. Where is she? I want to sit in her section. Move me over there."
I thought maybe he was just a really grumpy regular who was set in his way, so I explained I could move him to another table if he wanted, but that particular server had gone home. He went from panicked to absolutely irate, pounded his fist on the table, and asked exactly when she had left. Seemed like that probably wasn't information I should give him, and the situation was starting to feel more than just, I like things how I like them. So I hurriedly said, "I'm not quite sure, but I have to go check my other tables. Back in a while," and beat it out of the secluded section because it was more or less me and him alone off to the side. I went to go alert the manager to his bizarre behavior, but he was already up on his feet out in the parking lot. I thought he was leaving, but no, he was looking in windows of cars. He was looking for her in her car. The manager sent someone out to tell him to shove off. He argued with the guy for a couple of minutes, insisting he wasn't finished with his meal and the server should have told him she was finishing up her shift, because that's good customer service. Eventually, some parking lot security got him off the property. Pretty sure he's not allowed back in the place now. Some of the staff thought they recognized him, others didn't. No one was 100% sure. Maybe he had dementia, but the whole thing felt a little sinister. I was glad to get out of there, even though he was long gone by the time my shift ended. 4. I just recently quit my job at a fast casual seafood restaurant. I loved all my coworkers dearly, but my boss, also the owner, could be difficult to say the least. He is known for being extremely high-strung and gets stressed out very easily, especially when we're busy. The incident we are talking about today was known as Ketchupgate by all my coworkers after it happened. I was working on a Friday night, and it was crazy busy as usual for a weekend night. I had noticed we were running low on ketchup, so I looked through the window to the kitchen and asked my boss if we had any more ketchups. Now, I know some of my coworkers had been throwing away bottles when they were empty, as we all assumed we just got new bottles. Turns out they were being refilled. When I mentioned this to my boss, he was already annoyed to find out we had been throwing away bottles. Then I made the mistake of asking if we wash out the ketchup bottles before refilling them. This line of questioning comes from a cafe where I used to work, where they didn't wash out ketchup bottles all the time before refilling them, and oftentimes the ketchup would go bad. I genuinely cared about this restaurant, so I didn't want that to happen here. Anyways, he answers and tells me no, they don't wash them out before refilling them, but they do throw them away after a certain amount of time. Me having the smart mouth I have couldn't help the, "Well, that's kinda gross," that slipped out under my breath. That was clearly the wrong thing to say in that moment, as my boss became irate immediately. He goes straight on the defense and says that he doesn't appreciate me saying his restaurant is disgusting and dirty. I just say a quick sorry and say I had bad experiences with it in the past is all. I walk around the corner to do some other work.
"I don't like you saying my restaurant's disgusting in front of everyone."
I just chuckle a little and say, "That's not what I said," and walk away. I've learned not to engage too much when he gets like this. As soon as he goes back into the kitchen, I start hearing things slamming and being thrown around. I wait a few minutes and go back to see the carnage. There's receipt paper and chips everywhere. This isn't the first time he's done something like this, and he always cleans up his mess. I think that's supposed to be his way of making it up to us without actually acknowledging his behavior is inappropriate. Considering this is a result of something I said, I decided I would go ahead and clean it up. I'd be lying if I said I was doing it purely out of the goodness of my heart. I didn't want to give him that peace of mind. I ended up apologizing just so we could get past it and explained exactly why I felt the way I did, but I also acknowledged that it was not my place to be making comments. This did not fix the situation, as he kept saying I called his restaurant disgusting in front of customers. I reiterated I did not say that, and I also didn't say anything in front of a customer. Because I was fairly annoyed at this point, I went to the cooks and kitchen manager and apologized to them for putting him in this state, and I'm sorry they had to deal with it. And yes, I said all this in front of my boss. He ended up leaving. I assumed to go get some air and calm down. Nope. He comes back with all new ketchup bottles and starts slamming them down on the shelf where we hold all the ketchup. He then starts throwing the old ketchup bottles everywhere, getting ketchup all over the walls. It looked like a murder scene. I ended up cleaning all of that up as well, at least what I could reach. I know there was still ketchup in some places where I could not reach because I'm kind of short. He ended up coming up to me about 30 minutes later to tell me I could leave early and that I didn't need to come in the next day. I heard from someone else he ended up having his wife come into work. I thought I was getting fired and I was prepared to burn that place to the ground. Not literally, but I was prepared to make a scene if he fired me over that. I ended up working there for 3 or 4 more months. And I have many more similar stories that I witnessed but was not directly involved in. 5. I work as a musician in a live music bar in a busy part of town. We have 2 mirrors on the stage that we like to put fun things on. One of them has become my drink specials board. I use this to showcase what the players' names are and what they like to drink because customers like to buy the band drinks. I usually try to make it funny and silly too. Most people don't read it, but for those who do, it's a decent chuckle. So for example, the board might read Drink Specials, the John, a pitcher of Fireball and a silly straw, the Jennifer, enough mango white claw to kill a mountain lion, the Taylor, a margarita without the margarita mix, etc. I include everyone in the band that night. I'm not a big drinker, so for my own name, one week in the middle of winter I wrote, The Complacent Violinist. First person to bring me hot chocolate gets 5 free shots for their table. So the show starts. A few songs in, I get up to play my first song. This woman in the front row comes up on stage and starts trying to grab me and talk in my ear.
If we get you hot chocolate, you owe us shots.
Like literally pulling my hair as I'm about to play. I said, yeah, as I'm about to play. I'm kind of shaken because I hate strangers touching me, but also I didn't really expect anyone to take me up on the offer. The bouncer pulls her off stage. During my song, I watch her go to the bar and talk to one of our bartenders. The bartender shakes his head and she gets progressively angrier. She ends up moving on to the other bartender. When I get off stage, I go try to defuse the situation because I had a feeling it was my fault. I come up to her and I say, "Ma'am, is there anything I can do for you?"
You owe us shots.
Why?
I don't like being lied to.
Who lied to you, ma'am?
You did.
Oh, what did I say to you?
You said you'd get us shots.
Yes, if you get me a hot chocolate.
Well, I tried to order it, and they wouldn't give it to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't serve hot chocolate. She pauses. I continue. That drink specials board is really just to have some fun and list our players for the night. It's just supposed to be funny.
Well, I don't like jokes.
Oh.
We're all doctors, and we don't like jokes.
I don't know what to say to that. So I say, would you like me to get the owner?
Yes, I would.
So I get the owner, and when he goes to talk to her, she just shakes her head and says,
We don't have a problem.
The owner shrugged and I shrugged, and we all tried to move on with our lives. She and her table proceeded to ask me and the rest of the band for 2 more hours about the hot chocolate. She was pissing off everyone else in the band too, because she couldn't figure out how to request a song, and she kept getting on stage uninvited, and being rude to her server. She herself tried to get me to buy her shots again and again. At the end of the night, I gave her server some extra cash to make up for the problem that I probably caused, and her server said they wouldn't shut up about how they were doctors. Turns out they were chiropractors and alternative medicine people. I will say that other people clearly understood that it was a joke. Some even asked where in the area they could buy hot chocolate. I didn't end up getting a hot chocolate that cold, cold night. Oh well. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 135. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. And I believe I have a little shout out to do. Let's see. Ah yes, shout out to the author of the last story. That is The Complacent Violinist. I do like that name. Thank you so much for allowing me to use your story. I kind of bent my own rules a little there by including it, but what the hell. It took place in a bar. Why not? I will also include a link to their YouTube channel where they're just starting out. So far, they've got a review of Artemis Fowl, the movie, and they're also covering the books in it as well, looks like. And the name of the channel is... I think it's Alarin Talks. I'm not sure on the pronunciation. But I will include a little linky link so you can head on over and check out the review. Okay, if you enjoyed the video, you can tip your freezer by clicking the like button, leaving a comment, and or subscribing if you haven't done so already. Where are we? This is Saturday. I've still got a bloody headache since that vaccine. But apparently that can last for up to a week. I've heard longer, actually. Just keeping an eye on the other side effects so there's nothing red flaggy. Okay, right. I'm going to try and do a slightly earlier stream tonight. Because I might snuggle up on the sofa and watch films afterwards. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.